welcome to the show. My guest today is legendary Tony Harnell, and he is, of course, is most known for being the singer of TNT. But as you'll find out today, he's had a lot of other projects, including one with Bumblefoot from Guns N' Roses fame. So it was really fun to go over his whole career, from when he started singing and playing in bands to his global success around the world with TNT, to doing music for video games and his singing chorus that he started now. Lots of good stuff with Tony. Enjoy. Welcome, Tony Harnell, to the Chuck Shute podcast. How the hell are you?
I'm good, Chuck. How are you?
I'm great. It's a beautiful sunny day here in Arizona. Where are you again? I forgot. You're like overseas?
I'm in Nashville at the moment.
Oh, you're in Nashville. Okay.
Yeah. So that's where I am right now.
Were you in Europe or something? Or what? I thought you said the time's different. There's a time change. Was it just the Nashville 2 hours? It's a 2 hour difference?
Yeah. That's it. I was in England last year for a few months, and kind of moving around during COVID.
Okay. So I found out a lot about your history. I thought this was really fascinating that you started out doing surfing and skateboarding. In fact, and your dad was a sports photographer, so he actually got your pick in some skateboarding magazines. So before you had your picture in the rock magazines, you were in skateboarding magazines. That's kind of cool.
Yeah, that's true. I actually was. I turned pro. I was a pro skateboarder for about like a year. I competed for just a little bit. I didn't like competing, so I stopped competing. But so at 15 years old, I was kind of, I did one competition, and then I started to just kind of hang out at the local skate parks and help the younger kids out, and that kind of thing. It was great fun. I knew a lot of the top skaters at the time, and my dad was, he took to it because of me. And then he just like took off and became one of the more prominent skate photographers in the 70s. So it's pretty cool.
Can you still skateboard, or do you try, or do you just not even mess with that now?
I can. I haven't tried to skate vertical in many, many years, but I'm intrigued because I do have some friends that are around my age and older who are still skating pools. So it's tempting.
Yeah.
Surfing is something I just haven't lived near a great beach in a long time. So that's something I definitely want to get back into at some point.
Okay. Yeah. So, but then it was around this time you kind of got out of the skating and stuff. And then that's when you started getting into rock music and Judas Priest and all that good stuff. So I thought this story was really interesting. You're driving around and you're singing in your car in Astoria, New York. And I'll let you tell the rest of the story, but this is a really great story of how you joined a band. Was this your first band, I think, right?
Yeah. I've been singing since I was 5 years old, and it's music and singing were just always a part of my life. My mother was an opera singer. My aunt sang really well. They actually had a little duo together that had a single out on RCA, I believe, in the 50s. So my mom wrote songs, my grandmother sang. So I just kind of thought, well, singing's no big deal. Okay, so great. So I can sing, who cares? It's not that big a thing. So I went through life, doing my thing and as a kid and singing and being really into music. I didn't realize till I got older how interesting it was that such a young kid would be so into music. I mean, I would sit for hours at 5, 6, 7 years old and listen to records and sing along and learn them and study them and know who the producer was, But so fast forward and in my surfing, skateboarding days, and I was getting actually more serious about surfing and wanted to be a pro surfer. And I had finished high school early, and my grandparents, my mom had already moved to New York to pursue her opera career there. And I stayed back in California and with my grandparents, and they sort of gave me an ultimatum and said, look, you're not going to be a surfer. So you can stay here and go to college, or you can move to New York with your mom. And for some bizarre reason that I still can't understand, I chose New York. I hated the idea of New York, being a California kid that loved the beach and so forth. So it made no sense. But I got there and, my dad drove my car out with my surfboard in it, which was really funny, and my skateboard. And I was just this weird California kid, a fish out of water, skateboarding through the streets of Astoria. And I had my car. And so, 16, 17 years old, driving around the streets of and screaming, not screaming always, but singing loudly to the rock bands that I loved. And I had an 8-track tape player in my car. And that's what I was doing in California. I was driving to and from work. I had a little job, 16 years old, and to and from the beach. And I'd just be singing to all these records that I loved. And so I continued doing that in New York. And it was kind of interesting because, I lived in an open area in California. You're driving on the hot freeway and then all of a sudden I'm in this neighborhood with buildings and like all this stuff. And so I guess my voice was echoing off the walls, of the buildings. And I come to a stop sign one day, and these two long-haired hoodlums, I call them hoodlums, but they looked like, black leather, long black hair, and they're like, stop. And I'm like, rolling my window up and trying to lock the door. And they're like, no. Are you the guy that's been singing through the neighborhood? And I'm like, oh shit, I didn't know anybody heard me. So yeah, I said, yeah, I guess that's me. We have a band. Will you come Friday and rehearse, come to our rehearsal place? So I said, okay. And I'd never really been in a rehearsal room. I'd never sung with a band. I'd never sung on a microphone like that, So there I was on Friday, and it was however long that was, a couple hours of singing some Zeppelin and some whatever they knew. And that was it. The smells, the sounds, just the whole energy of it was just, wow. And I had just started college. I got a scholarship at a university in New York. And I was in my first semester. And that interaction blew my whole college career to burned it to flames, because by the end of that first semester, I had left that band, joined another band, and was well on my way. And I just said to my parents, you know what, I had a scholarship in photography. And I just said to them, I don't want to do that. I want to sing.
Yeah.
And they said, okay.
Yeah, that's great. So then this is interesting. You played in like 10 bands and you recorded demos, you did all these gigs. And you had an interesting strategy. It was like you said once that you joined a band, and if it was a good band, and they were playing the clubs that you wanted to be seen in. Like you kept upgrading. Like you kept going to you're like, okay, I think I want to play in that band because they're playing in the bigger clubs, and you didn't really stay loyal to any band, which I think is kind of smart. I mean, this isn't like these are your childhood friends or something. This is just a band that you're joining, and you just kept. I mean, I think that's kind of what you have to do in this business, right?
I mean, let's face it. I've been in plenty of situations in my professional career where people have not been loyal to me. So, look, I mean, it's a business first and foremost. I wasn't thinking in terms of, oh man, I'm hurting people along the way. I was just thinking, as I was getting better, I wanted better musicians around me. So whenever those offers came and I, listened to them and said, wow, those guys sound definitely better than what I'm doing now, I'm in, and there was one band, cause you said, if they were playing the clubs, there was one band in particular that was a downgrade from the band I'd been in previously, but I purposely got on board because they played the best clubs, and they had a great manager. And I thought, this will be good. And it was a great strategy, because it was that band that led to a really good band that was right along the lines of what I wanted to do, musically. And we started to get pretty serious. We had some label interest, but it was that band that took me from the band I said that wasn't very good, that led to TNT. So actually that decision to go with that not so great band that played the great clubs ended up being 2 bands later ended up being TNT. It was a good decision. So.
Which one was the Jackals? Because that one you were playing
that's the one.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the one I left.
Okay.
To go to TNT.
1,000-person clubs. It was kind of more of a metal cover band, but John Tempesta was in that band, who would later go on to Exodus and Testament and play with Rob Zombie and the Cult, and so that's pretty cool. And you were friends with Anthrax at this time too, and Metallica?
Yeah, we were based, that band, the Jackals, was based up in the Bronx. So so we were buddies with the Anthrax guys. And there was another band up there called Black Lace that some people might remember. They had one record out. And we all played this one club up there that would just, on Friday and Saturday nights, would just get packed with 1,000 people just wanting to hear metal. And then we started branching out. We opened for Overkill in New Jersey one night. And the night that the TNT thing happened was we were playing a metal night at Studio 54. They started having Wednesday night metal in Manhattan, and we played there. And after the show, backstage, Mike Varney, who you might know who he is, he came backstage. I didn't know who he was at the time. He came backstage with another guy who was managing TNT at the time. He was American from Long Island. And they handed me a tape and they said, we're representing a band from Norway. Mike flew out from San Francisco just to do this, by the way. So me being in the Jackals, somehow there was this word of mouth, this buzz thing. I had no idea. So they came back and gave me the tape, and it was Knights of the New Thunder. No vocals on one side of the tape, and the singer that they fired, who started the band, his vocals were on the other side. And they said, take this, listen to it. The guitar player heard you. And I still don't know how, that somehow a demo of mine made it over there.
Wow.
And he wants you in the band. It's not an audition. It's an offer to be in the band. And if you like the music, we'd like you can rewrite the stuff to fit your voice. But we need you over there like within a couple of weeks. I didn't have a passport. So I went home and I shared an apartment with the bass player in Jackals. Right. And he saw the interaction, and I was kind of like, we went back, it was like 2 a.m. after the gig, and we're sitting in the apartment, and I'm kind of like, I know the tape is in my pocket. I haven't listened to it. And I'm kind of, trying to be cool. And he said, so you're going to listen to it? So I'm like, well, it's a little awkward. He's like, put it on. So I put it on, and the opening riff of Seven Seas comes barreling out of the speakers. And I'm just trying to play it cool. In my head, I'm going, oh my God, this is exactly what I want to do, but I shouldn't react too much, And I was quiet and then stopped playing the thing. And he says, well, you're going to go, right? And I said, oh, okay. Yeah, I guess so.
Because he's thinking this is going to be good for the Jackals. Like, you were thinking maybe you'll just go over there, record it, and they'll put it out in Norway, and then you'll fly home, and then that will be good publicity for you guys.
That was the plan. So they had a record deal with what was at the time Polygram Records. Now it's Universal. And so they had that deal in Norway, and I thought, great, I'll get to make my first album with a producer in a nice studio. It'll be the best demo I ever had. And I'll come back and get back together with my guys. And if that doesn't work out, I made a record. Now, I mean, the world is open, so anyway, I went and made the record, and little by little, I came back to the States, and it just, we finished mixing, and it then it was going to come out. So it came out in Norway, and it shot up the charts. And then all of a sudden other countries started releasing it. They changed the cover, and it just kind of spread across Europe. And then we went and did a tour at the end of 84 in Norway. And that was crazy successful. And then sometime at the end of 84, beginning of 85, we got this crazy phone call from the New York office of Mercury Records, Polygram, from the VP there, that wanted to meet with the band and offer us a 3-album worldwide deal. So we took that, obviously. He picked up Nights, re-released it, because it hadn't, well, not re-released, but released it in America with a new cover. We added a song. We changed a few things in the studio to make it more American. And that came out in 85 in the US. So it had already been out for a while in Norway, in Europe.
Yeah. And that's a great album. So it's got the Seven Seas. That was a good song. And then, the song that I really like, though, is Last Summer's Evil. It's such a good song. It's so catchy. I love the title. It's a very original idea. Like, there's a lot of songs like Love This and Love That. This is a very, like, that song title like jumps out at you and then it's so catchy. What are those lyrics about though?
Here's the thing. So when I got over there, I kind of was faced with, all right, well, some of these melodies on the choruses are pretty catchy and they're pretty good. Not crazy about some of the titles, and the lyrics were kind of, because they were written by the original singer who's Norwegian.
Sure.
And some of his English lyrics didn't make sense. But I wasn't a great lyricist yet, by any means. And some people would say I'm still not, but I think I evolved quite a bit since then. But so I cringe when I hear that record. I cringe at the lyrics. I cringe at every word, but what is it about? It's silly. It's, we were kids, and, oftentimes you hear bands and you get sort of direction from labels, and you think, you get this idea in your head that, I was a big fan of the Scorpions, and they always had tongue-in-cheek sexual innuendos, and you think, oh, that's a cool thing to do. Let's be a bunch of horny guys writing about, and in retrospect, I think a lot of that, even though people love the energy of the music, and that part I love too, but I think the lyrical content is a bit immature, childish, whatever. And maybe cheapens the elegance of some of the music. So I kind of wish that oftentimes that I had been in a different frame of mind, when I was working on that stuff. But you know what? I always say to people, music, like a photograph, like a haircut or clothes that you wore, it's a moment in time. And then it's preserved, and that was you then and what you did, and then you go forward and,
Yeah. So the next album, the third album, released 34 years ago today, Tell No Tales, 1987. Yeah. 10,000 Lovers in One, Everyone's a Star. How big was this album? I thought I heard you say it was #1 in Norway. It was bigger than Michael Jackson some weeks, and it was also huge in Japan.
Yeah, we were trading #1 positions for weeks with Michael Jackson's.
That's
I think
crazy.
It was the Bad album, and I think we kept going like this. It was a big album. It was at one point someone told me 1 in 4 households in Norway had the album, which is pretty funny.
Wow.
And we won a Norwegian Grammy, Rock Album of the Year for that album. And also there was a point in time where 10,000 Lovers and the record were both sitting at #1 for a period of time over there. So that was the first initial success. And then it came out in America, and it did really well, considering, and I say considering because we had some things against us, maybe. We did have great management. Okay, well, let me rephrase that. We had okay management. And the label seemed to be pretty behind us. We did the Striper tour, which was really big, arenas across the country. And then we jumped on the Twisted Sister Great White tour. That was fun. And we did our own sold out club shows here and there. But before the album really in my opinion, had a chance to, take hold, because we were kind of going upward. They did this to us a couple of times. They put us back in the studio to make another album. And, but no, it did great in the States. It definitely put us on the map. MTV played our videos a lot. And, the European thing, we were, definitely on our way. We were actually also booked on a Motley Crue tour, a little bit before that album came out, in Europe, but for some reason it was decided again that we needed to be in the studio.
So, really? That would have been interesting. Yeah. Although maybe you wouldn't have survived a tour with Motley Crue. That sounds like it's pretty dangerous from what I've heard. So
well, I had forged a bit of a friendship with Tommy.
Oh, really?
In 85, and we spent some time in New York City hanging out together, and and kind of, would check in with each other when he was out on the Theater of Pain tour. And then we eventually lost touch.
Okay.
But just as people do.
Yeah, sure.
But I think it would have been fun.
Oh, yeah. It would have been a blast, I'm sure. But then that next album, Intuition '88, did you say that you think that one sold
89.
more? Or oh, was it '89? Okay,
Yeah.
you think that one sold more in the U.S. than the Tell No Tales?
In the U.S., I think they were very much close to being about the same.
Okay.
But the reason I think it sold more worldwide is because we had so much success with it in Japan.
Oh, okay.
It was very, very successful there. It was from what we had, there was a Michael Jackson thing in there too with the Japanese charts. It was dancing around with Michael Jackson someplace at the top of the charts. Yeah, it was so much fun. I mean, so it was like this kind of thing of like, explosion in Norway with Tell No Tales, and then doing well in the States, and the Intuition tour. We had lined our own club and theater tour in the US, and that was sold out, did great. And then this Japan thing was insane. I mean, we got this call, you guys are, top 10 in Japan on the pop charts, and we're booking a tour, and the tour sold out in 30 minutes. And it was like 7,500 to 10,000 seaters,
Wow.
And we got there, and it was like, it was like a movie. It was like everything, kids at the airport and following us everywhere. And so it's really funny looking back, because I think we felt very, very sort of, I don't know, like deer in the headlights about the whole thing. And I think there was a bit, because we were so young, I think there was a lack of gratitude that went along with it, because we didn't crack the States open, wide yet. And we were so hungry. We're like, this is great. This is a lot of fun. But,
Yeah. Well, and especially you as an American, you want to crack the States. So then that next record, Realized Fantasies, they brought in another lyricist, and you said you kind of cringe at some of the lyrics that you wrote, not necessarily that he wrote, but the other lyricist was Del James, the Guns N' Roses legend. So, I mean, tell me what it was like.
Yeah.
Tell me what it was like working with him, because I am a big fan of Guns N' Roses. So anything related to Guns N' Roses is amazing to me.
Yeah, he's a great guy. We still say hi to each other on Facebook, and I've run into him a few times. My buddy Bumblefoot, was in Guns N' Roses.
Yeah.
I was in Vegas when they did a residency with Bumblefoot, and ran into Del, because he works for Axl.
Yeah, he's the manager, right? The touring manager for Guns N' Roses or something?
Yeah. He's like kind of the tour manager and Axl's everything guy,
Yeah.
And we caught up and reminisced about that. No, I mean, they wanted to, I think I was all for it too. I wanted just kind of to get a different perspective. And he wrote with me, to be clear, we sat and wrote the lyrics together, and he, we sort of, it was like, it wasn't exactly line by line, like I threw a line out, but it kind of was a little of that. It was like, he had an idea, or I had an idea, and then it was a line, and this, the most successful song of that writing session was definitely Lionheart.
Yeah.
Which I think was a really nice song. It had really cool lyrics that I would have never come up with a lot of those lines that were in there, but together we really, once he would throw something, I'd go, ooh, and then it would entice me to go. So it was good. I think it was very good for my lyric writing in many ways, but there was this thing again of you guys, because Intuition was a very spiritual album. I was reading a lot of Eastern philosophy. I was very into Buddhism. My grandmother was she was into that too, and sending me all this stuff. And it was very helpful and very good for me. Meditation, I was into all this, but it was coming through on the Intuition album. And they wanted something that was, I guess, a little more accessible to the kids. And, see, they loved that in Japan, because it was, they liked that kind of stuff. So I thought, I guess we have to be sexy, And again, I go back to what I said about the Nights album, and I just, it's just not me. I felt uncomfortable, and I listened to some of those songs, and they aren't the ones that Del worked on with me. They were the ones where the label was like, we need more. And, because he and I just kind of worked for, I don't know, a week or two. on a few songs just to fill in the kind of, the thing. And then I was back on my own, to complete the thing. And some of it's good and some of it's silly. Yeah.
No, I know what you're saying.
It was a very, very hard record to record.
Yeah, it's like the record label wants something, but it's just not you. It'd be like if I'm trying to be Howard Stern. I love Howard Stern, by the way. I love everything. I think it's hilarious, but I'm not Howard Stern. I can't be Howard Stern. So me trying to be Howard Stern would be really awkward, and I think it would probably not feel right. So I see what you're saying. Yeah. So
yeah, it was a weird, it was weird. So, and it was a hard record to do. We had a producer who was not a rock producer. So he really kind of, and he wasn't really there much. He was kind of like, on the phone, and then he'd like walk in and go, great. And then he was gone again, but it took a while to do. It frustrated the guys in the band because it was the only record that we ever did start to finish in the US. But at one point, the tape machines, because we were still recording on tape, we had 2 tape machines, as you did back then, with a lot of tracks, and usually a slave and a master. And he was recording some guitars for weeks, and he kept tuning and tuning and tuning, and he kept saying to the engineer, something isn't right. I don't know what it is, but something is not right. And they'd be like, no, you're fine, you're fine. And finally one day he put his guitar down and he stormed into the control room and he said, I want those tape machines checked. Well, they checked them, and sure enough, one of the tape machines was like, if you look at them being tuned, so the speed of one machine to the other, they weren't synced. So if one was spinning it, and the music was recorded at A440, the other one was like slightly sharp of that or flat of that, right? So he was trying to record overdubs to the master, and it wasn't working. So thankfully, it was, from what I recall, it was the slave machine that was off. So the drums and the bass and all that were fine. But he got so frustrated, he said, I'm done. And he took the engineer that we had in New York, went back to Norway, and he did all the guitars there. And so I sat in New York waiting for that, and then finished the vocals once the guitars came back.
Wow. And so that album didn't live up to expectations, partly probably because the music scene was changing, right?
I think, and I don't know the exact day it was released, but from what I recall, it was very, very close to when the Nirvana record hit. And
oh, great.
And I think,
and you like Nirvana, right? You thought it was amazing.
Well, I'm not one of those, I'm not one of those people that say grunge killed 80s rock, man. I think 80s rock killed 80s rock, and I say it all the time.
Sure.
And I'm sure that Blabbermouth will pick that headline up. But I say that not to diss the bands or the musicians. They were still great bands, great musicians, etc. But I think the labels, in the 70s, it was, if you think about your favorite hard rock or metal bands in the 70s, you start to look at all of them and you think, okay, there was Zeppelin, there was Aerosmith, there was, Ted Nugent, there was Kiss, there was
Black Sabbath. Yeah, they're all so different.
Black Sabbath, Queen, and so on. They were all very, very different sounding bands. Right. And then all of a sudden in the 80s, these A&R guys were like, well, let's sign another Def Leppard, and let's get another Bon Jovi and another Poison. And they were big. So let's get some pretty guys that put makeup on them. And by the time, you got to like 1989, 1990, 91, it just was there was this late surge around 1990, 91, 92. There was a late surge of all these signings. And honestly, I would open up Metal Edge magazine and we'd be in it, and I couldn't find us because everybody looked the same, and we all had the same clothing designer too, and the same haircut. So
so was the record label and the management kind of pushing you to dress and look a certain way, or was that your own choice?
Well, by the time that era came along, I think everybody was, by the time the Realized Fantasies record came along, we were trying to be, everybody was trying to be current, you know? So, the clothes got a little different, the hair got a little less layered, you know, things changed a bit, but I don't know. It was just a weird time. We didn't enjoy making the record. The only shows we did for that album were more sold out, another sold out Japanese tour,
Mm.
and a couple shows in Europe, and then we just were all just we were disenchanted with the whole thing, and we just kind of needed a break. So
Yeah,
Ronnie
sure.
went and made a couple of records with he put a prog band together with a now very well-known Norwegian singer named Jorn, and that was called Vagabond, and he did 3 really good records with them. I did an acoustic album for Polygram for Universal. That didn't do. I mean, it came out really basically in Japan,
Mm.
and then I just sort of like really revamped my thinking and started just really writing a lot, and getting into other kinds of music and exploring. And little by little, we made our way back together in the mid 90s.
Yeah.
So we were really only apart for a few years.
And then you said 2 of your favorite albums from TNT, 2004's My Religion and 2005 All the Way to the Sun. They are not available in the US, but hopefully soon.
Moment, anywhere. They're not available.
Oh, they're not available anywhere. Okay. Well, geez, yeah.
At the moment.
But you're hoping they'll be available soon.
Yeah, the label that put them out, My Religion was probably the most successful album sales wise and chart wise that we had in a very long time at the time it came out. And but unfortunately the label that put it out in Europe went bankrupt. So it's not hard for us to put it all back together and get it released again. We just have to do it.
Okay. So the new releases from TNT, I mean, new old releases from TNT, will there ever be a current new release from TNT or any shows? And because you've kind of been on again, off again with the band. So, I mean, maybe there's nothing planned, but never say never, or.
Yeah. Ronnie and I, contrary to popular belief, we talk often, and
right.
Sometimes we just hop on. He loves FaceTime. Ronnie's not a big technology guy, but he like really loves FaceTime video. And it's kind of annoying because I love him, but he'll call me at like, early in the morning because he's overseas, so he'll call me early in the morning here to like the video chat, and I'm like in bed, but I love the guy, and we have a great, we're going to be, whatever happens, we'll be on a beach someplace, when we're in our 70s, laughing and hanging out. So
that's great.
And most of the things that pushed us apart, again, contrary to popular belief, are business related. So I'll just leave it at that. So never say never is a good way to put it. And there might be a time and a place.
Sure, absolutely. So besides TNT, that you've done, I can't believe this is amazing how much other music and projects you have done. But one of the big ones was the Sonic the Hedgehog stuff. That's got to be, is that not like the most lucrative gig that you can get recording music right now, or no?
It's not lucrative.
It's not,
because I did it as a buyout, and it haunts me all the time because for some reason, the way Spotify works, most of the TNT stuff, all the TNT stuff, and most of the music I've recorded, my name is not connected to it. So on my personal Spotify, I just have a few random singles that I put out myself, the Starbreaker stuff maybe, and the Sonic thing. And so I have this crazy, insane number of streams and fans every month that has
millions,
no relationship whatsoever to my sort of success with TNT, and it's all Sonic.
Well, those songs are so really catchy. Really, now, you didn't write those, did you?
I did not.
Yeah.
I did not. I was hired initially, I think it was around 2000 or 2001 when I initially went in the studio to do that. And I did, I believe, 3 songs that first session. And then I did another round several years later, both with Ted Poley.
Ted Poley, yeah.
who I believe wrote or co-wrote those.
Okay.
So yeah, looking at them now, I sort of see these crazy stream numbers and, all the success. And I just kind of go, I should have made a better deal. But I honestly, I've never been into video games. I don't know anything about them. To me, it feels like something else to get addicted to,
Yeah.
to keep me in a dark room for many
Yeah.
hours. And with these phones we have these days, that's the last thing I need.
Sure. So something totally different from TNT or the Sonic stuff was this. You kind of alluded to it earlier with the project we had with Bumblefoot. It's Tony Harnell and the Wildflowers featuring Bumblefoot. This is like really cool acoustic Zeppelin sounding folk rock. Or how would you describe it?
No, that's pretty good. I think it had kind of a modern, at the time, modern, because it came out in 2013. Yeah, we were actually recording it and we were close to being done with it. And I went to NAMM in, I guess it was early 2012, and I met Ron, and he actually had met him for the second time because he reminded me, or I don't remember which way it went, but he was a big TNT fan, and he reminded me that he actually auditioned for a solo band I was going to put together in the early 90s after TNT had a break.
Oh. And he didn't make the cut.
Nobody did. I ended up not putting a band together at the time. So, but he was amazing. And so fast forward, we run into each other at NAMM, and we hit it off, and we started to talk a lot and get together. And I was working on this acoustic thing, and I just said, this thing's mostly done, but why don't we write a song together, and then maybe I'll just send you all the tracks, and you can just put some nice guitar across the whole thing. So he said, sure. And we wrote a song called Burning Daylight, which is there's a video for it on my official YouTube channel. And it just turned out great. It's one of my favorite projects for sure. It was a crowd-funded project, the only one I've ever done. It was super successful and a lot of fun to do.
Yeah, so, I was going to say, is that
more of that?
Yeah, that's got to be really refreshing as an artist to be able to do something totally different. Because you probably get burned out on doing all TNT. I mean, it's nice to have something totally different. That's got to be really energizing, I would think, to do something that sounds totally different.
Yeah, I mean, I get really bored. Here's what it is for me. I don't listen to the TNT albums unless I'm preparing to play them live. And like any artist, I'm tired of it, and there's this huge pressure when I go out live to like sing like the record, even though I'm 58 years old. And
is it harder to sing that way now?
Well, it takes more rev up time, so it takes more, I'm also a vocal coach, so that's been a passion of mine for many years. And so it just takes more,
because yeah, aren't you recognized as one of the few people that has a 4-octane octave voice?
Octane, yeah.
That would be cool. 4-octave voice, which is like, it's really rare or something, right? I don't know a lot about, but I just know you have a very amazing range, and I'm assuming you still have most of that, right? Because
yeah. It just takes more time for me to rev up to what I need to do to do the TNT stuff. But what I was going to say was, when I get on stage, regardless of how I feel about that, about the music, when I see people in the audience smiling and reacting to the songs, like just when they hear the opening riff, then I just, then it feels amazing.
Yeah.
We did. And then I just like look over at Ronnie and I go, look what we did. Look what we accomplished, all those years ago.
That's amazing. Another project you did, Starbreaker. This is, I listened to, so there was an album in 2008 called, I think it was Love's Dying Wish. The most popular song was on Spotify, according to it, says Building a Wall. And it's got this piano intro that's just beautiful. And then it gets really heavy. And that's really cool. And then the Dysphoria album, that's one of the coolest album covers I've ever seen. It's got this star with a rose on fire. And you said it was very personal songs for you. The lyrics are really heavy. Like you wrote about what you were going through. What were you going through at the time that was so heavy?
Well, I can't get into a lot of detail about it, but it was a very, um, it's so funny because having a couple of years since I put that out, my view of the record, the lyrics, and the whole thing is very different than it was at the time. Um, let's just say that I don't feel that I was writing from a completely honest place when I wrote that record,
Hmm.
but I think I was, well, emotionally I was,
Okay.
but mentally I think that I was you know, just in such a strange frame of mind. First of all, I was very newly sober. I have
Hmm.
over 3 years of sobriety now, but
Congrats on that,
I
by the
was
way.
thank you, but I was just freshly in recovery, and I had this record to do. Thank God I did, because it really helped me sort of, you know, have something you know, important to do. And so I was basically, you know, just, you know, focused on my recovery and making that record. But yeah, I came out of a really difficult and life altering relationship that you know, yeah. And so that the lyrics there were somewhat reflective of the recovery,
Hmm.
blended in with the relationship and some other things. But there's just a lot of stuff on there that is just you know, if I had to, let's put it this way, if I was gonna write about that, a lot of those things today, the approach and the energy would be very different.
Yeah. So is that kind of how you feel like the Lovekillers stuff? That's another, it has like kind of piano stuff like Set Me Free. That almost sounds almost like kind of like religious or gospel, but it's kind of a sad but also uplifting. And I don't mean that
Yeah,
as it just seems very spiritual. Like is that another kind of emotional written song
you know,
band stuff?
I made a couple, and this is probably a very unpopular thing to say, but I made a couple of records in 2019. Um, you know, for the wrong reasons, and well, for the right reasons and the wrong reasons. I mean, this is what we do. I'm a recording artist,
Mhm.
so I make records, and that's part of my income, you know.
Sure.
And but that record in particular was something that you know, I kind of got, I guess, talked into it. And
Okay.
I think there are some good tracks on it. I did not write most of that material. And I feel like what it was it was writers. And they're all really talented, all of them. Everybody involved in Lovekillers was extremely talented, especially Alessandro Del Vecchio, the producer. Great guy, super talented guy. Um, but the record label sort of wrestled me into this kind of, you know, we envision you making a certain record, and
Hmm.
we love your songwriting, but we want to try something different. And I just want, you know, I wanted to keep working. It was important for me in recovery
Mhm.
just to, you
Mhm.
know, keep working, keep making records. And I thought, okay, you know, and the songs started to come in, and, you know, I was a little disappointed. It was writers trying to write TNT-ish songs,
Hmm.
and that's just not possible.
Hmm.
You know, you know, I don't think I mean, I think there's some good stuff on there, and I think that a lot of people really like that record. So I have to be a little bit gentle with my you know, critique of
Sure.
it. But what I learned from 2019 was that going forward, I want to make music that is from my heart, whatever that is.
Hmm.
So if someday that means a TNT thing, that music for the most part has always been very honest. You
Yeah.
know, when I get together and work with Ronnie, I feel like the stuff that we put out is always very on point and very honest for the time that we're in, you know. But I'm not going to be making records anymore unless I love the project. But I
Mhm.
don't want to make records just for money, or you know, the biggest problem with the Starbreaker thing is that Magnus doesn't tour, and I want to
Right.
tour,
Yeah.
and I want to play live shows. And so we have three great records that I can't go out and perform live with,
with him,
which is a shame because I think Starbreaker, and a lot of people think Starbreaker would have been a great, European festival act. And so,
what about
that's okay.
What about Echobats? That's the kind of a super group with Joel Hoekstra and James Lamenzo?
Well, I think that because of everybody's busy schedule, it's probably safe to look at it as a one-off. But it was just something we started talking about a while back, and the pandemic hit, and we had that song finished. It just needed to be mixed, and some details and needed to be added to it. So I went to the guys and said, we have this track, let's just put it out and have fun, for fun. And we did a fun video and got it out there, and it got a great response. And so we'll see. No, that could always continue at some point, but right now we don't have plans.
Yeah. So it sounds like, you had some interesting advice. I heard you say that, I don't know if this is for music or just life in general, but live your life as you truly don't care what other people think about you. I mean, as long as you're living in an ethical way, like that's, can you explain that a little bit more though? I mean, cause you kind of have to care if it's music, right? Cause it's meant for an audience.
I think what I really mean is live your life. Well, I mean, there's two ways of looking at it. One way to look at it is live your life as though everybody's watching you. That's a very interesting perspective, so that's kind of my way of, of feeling, I don't know. I think that keeps people honest when you look at it that, from that viewpoint.
Well, I remember my teachers used to say, like, when I was a kid, like, you're supposed to act like your parents are always watching you.
Yeah.
And that kind of messes with your head a little bit as a kid, especially as a teenager.
Yeah, that's maybe a little strong. Okay. That might be a little much, but the other thing that I said about living is, I'd like to rephrase that and say maybe live like each day is your last, but ethically, and meaning, I guess I have found over the years that time can get wasted very easily. And now that we have social media and, these damn devices that just suck so much of our time, it's easy to go down a rabbit hole. All of a sudden you're watching a great band on YouTube. And then, 2 hours later, you've watched all these bands and all these, different things.
Well, that doesn't sound like a waste of time. I do that all the time.
Well, I know.
Yeah.
But,
I know what you're saying. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, so
I think,
go on. Sorry.
No, I just think that, we live in a world that is filled with distractions. And I just think that what the fight is for me every day is just grounding myself and keep bringing myself back to center myself, and just keep trying to be centered as often as I can throughout the day. There just is so much going on now, so much information, so much, in this pandemic. I think that not enough talk, at least in our community, about mental health and how this pandemic has affected people. And for me, being in recovery and having all of this go on, and sort of, relationships and how to manage all of this, this stuff, it's easy to paint a pretty picture on social media, which I honestly don't even bother trying to do. I kind of just try to be interesting. It's not easy when there's not a lot going on. If you're on tour, you just post tour stuff all the time, and it's great.
Sure, yeah.
But I try to be creative with it and have fun with it. But it's not reality. And I think that it would be nice for us to have some kind of just a general acknowledgement of, hey, are you doing okay out there? Are you okay? Like that. That's what I feel like saying sometimes to people is everybody all right? Because most people won't say it if they're not. But I get a sense that, sure, some people are doing great during this pandemic. Some people have had, babies and new jobs and all kinds of and been very, very creative and prolific, but that's not the picture for everybody. So,
Yeah. So with your sobriety, so you said 3 years, you must have some clarity on that. I've always wondered this, like, and I don't know if this is different or the same for everyone in recovery, but do they kind of preach or do you think like when after you go through recovery, you're like, oh, I think everybody should go 100% sober. Like everybody should be that way. Or do you think some people can drink responsibly throughout their life?
Well, see, there's a big misconception about what sobriety actually is and what recovery is. We have this 12-step program, right? And all that really is it's a blueprint for how to live. And it's not crazy. It doesn't have to be religious if you're not religious. There are lots of atheists and agnostics that are in the 12-step program. You apply it how you see fit for your life. But no, what I would say is when I started to go to meetings, my observation was everybody could use those 12 steps. And that didn't necessarily mean that they didn't have to drink. It meant that those 12 steps were really great tools to guide one through a really awesome life. And that in many ways, people in recovery, I think, come out kind of ahead of the pack in certain, and I'm not talking again about the drinking. See, sobriety, not drinking is only the first little tip of the iceberg about sobriety. So what sobriety really is learning how to live better, to be a better person, to be honest and truthful to yourself and to others, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And I think, and be accountable. And that's the main reason why I chose to be public about it, is I thought maybe I could help other people. And by being public about it, I'd be held accountable,
Yeah, true. Yeah.
And it is one day at a time. So I'm not here to say I'll never do it again.
Right.
I can't say that, but I can say today I'm not doing it. So,
And you're also, you've also gone vegan. And did I hear you say gluten-free too? You eat very healthy. In fact, you were kind of like a health coach for a little while and you're really into that.
Well, I do. I do have, I got interested in, when my mother was sort of declining fast from breast cancer, I was diagnosed then with thyroid cancer at the beginning of 2009 and had my surgery like March 10th, I believe. And then she passed away late April, and God, the anniversary is coming up for that. And between those two things, and then in a couple of years later, the TNT lost our longtime keyboard player at 40. He was only 44, and he passed from melanoma, and he went really fast and really hard. And I just thought, I got to learn about more. I've always been interested in health. It's always fascinated me. I've always kind of studied it, in my own way, but I decided to get serious about it. And I actually did a year-long course and paid a good amount of money for it and got certified as a health coach. So I am a certified health coach. I don't really use it. I may write a book at some point, but I experiment with different diets, and I have been experimenting with vegan. I'm not, this will probably really upset a lot of vegans out. I think it's a great way to live. It's definitely better for the planet, no doubt about that. It may not be for everybody. I'm not one of these hardcore militant vegans that's like, that's just not me.
Yeah.
I had some things about being vegan that I didn't really like a lot. So I'm experimenting now. I don't think I'm ever going to go back to eating meat, but I am experimenting with being more vegetarian, so like eggs.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. Yeah. So tell me about this vocal training course that you do. I think it's called the Fundamentals of Rock Singing, and you have it's like a private Facebook group, and you do actually like one-on-one coaching with people to teach them how to sing like you.
Well, it's a lot more than that. What it is it's a full course.
Right? Yeah.
That actually that you buy and you sign up for, and it sits in a beautiful platform. And it is basically a 6-part course with over 80 videos that include warm-ups and all sorts of different things. It took a long time to put it together with the help of a very, very talented team. And we did it during COVID again, because it's like, I've been wanting to do it, but I wanted to do it right. And until I could do it right, I didn't want to do it. So it's actually called the Rock Singer Society. That's kind of the overview name of it.
Okay.
And there's a website for that. People can go to the rocksingersociety.com, and they can
I'll put that in the notes.
See a little bit. They can see a little bit about it. There's a button where they can book a call directly with me, and I can tell them about the course and how much it is and how it works, And I do one-on-ones as well, but I will say that the course, from what I've seen with all the people that are on it now, it's the most effective thing I've ever done. I'm seeing people just, the growth and the things I'm watching are mind-boggling,
So with your voice and that range, that amazing range, I mean, some of that is just innate though, right? Like, you're born, not everyone's born with that.
No, I mean, I'm not gonna say that everybody that takes my course is gonna sing like me, but I will say that they will sing better.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's very much based on healthy singing.
Okay.
One of the things people say to me often is, how do you still have your voice? I sometimes, if it's a down year, I'll just put a few songs out, like I did this year and last year, just to kind of, I'm here, even if they don't do a lot, just to kind of little nod to my fan base, just to say, I'm here, I can still sing, everything's okay. But people always say to me, the main thing I want to do, they say to me, is keep my voice when I get older and just have it, and that's kind of one of the main emphases on the course is healthy singing. And I teach people how to keep their voice, how to use it better, how to expand their range, how to breathe properly, et cetera, et cetera.
I am a big Motley Crue fan. Do you think you could help Vince Neil? Because I feel like I've seen him live recently, and it seems like his voice he's struggling. But I know he could probably do better. Like, maybe he could take this course. Like, is that a crazy idea?
I think I could help him, and he actually is in Nashville. So,
Oh, he is. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. I mean, here's what I see. I see a lot of older singers who, I feel could be singing better than they are. But what you have to, more than half, actually, the majority of what it takes to get better is not something like my course. That's just that's the tool.
Okay.
The thing that's actually going to make somebody better is, do they want to? Do they want to get better, and do they want to work, a program or work with a coach or whatever the case may be? And a lot of singers, if they're happy where they are and they're making a lot of money, as somebody like he is, what's the motivation? I mean, my motivation would be to be great.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Cause like there's a lot of people talking shit about Vince, and wouldn't that be awesome if he took your course or worked with you and just came out and just kicked ass at this when the Motley Crue tour, if it ever happens, if it does happen, wouldn't that be cool to see? I mean, cause I heard he was losing weight and stuff. And so I don't know, I think that'd just be another piece of the puzzle if he really got his voice in shape.
I don't know Vince well, but I like him. I had some very, very brief interactions with him way back in time, but I think he'll be just fine.
Okay. Are you, did I hear are you friends with Sebastian Bach? Are you still friends with him too? Or is that more just
we haven't spoken in a long time. But that happens in this business. I'm not the greatest with keeping in touch with people. I don't have a big arsenal of famous people in my phone. I have a few select people that I stay in touch with because I like them. And so I've met a lot of people along the path, but
tell me about
Sebastian's great. Great.
Oh, I love him. Yeah. I was just going to say, if you see him, tell him I'm coming for him, cause I want him on my show at some point. But
I love his cameo videos on the Instagram page. That's just, that's classic stuff right there.
Yeah, he'd be a great guest for sure. Tell me about Tony Harnell surviving rock and roll. Are they making a documentary on your life?
Really?
I don't know. I see this. I saw this thing on IMDb. Is it? You're not a part of this? You don't know anything about it? You never heard of that?
Now I'm gonna have to go look and see what that is.
I don't know.
I
Maybe it's just maybe it's a BS. I don't know.
There was an idea. A filmmaker and I were discussing something years ago, but we never really pursued it. But wow, okay.
I don't know.
You were asking me a question like in general, but
no. I thought I saw this because I was looking. I always look up people like I look up your Wikipedia, and then I look up to see if you've had any songs in like movies and TV. And on your name, there's a thing that says Tony Harnell, surviving rock and roll, like coming soon. And I was like, what is this? I haven't heard about this. So if you don't know about it, maybe it's just misinformation. That's very possible
now
too.
I'm going to have to look when we hang up. That's
for sure. So, but then you were talking about maybe writing a book though at some point, maybe fiction loosely based on your life.
Yeah. In fact, I'm reading a book, if I can find it here. I can't find it, but yeah, I'm actually reading a couple of books right now, about writing. I want to write I started writing one years ago and I have a bunch of pages written, but I really want it to be great. So I'm kind of reading Rob Halford's book, and I'm reading a book about writing memoirs,
Okay.
And some other things.
Have you read The Dirt?
Yeah, it's awesome for them.
Yeah.
It's not really, it wouldn't be right for me. But
sure.
See, I want to write something that's really kind of, since I'm not that famous, I want to write something that would interest people on a broader spectrum, not just Tony Harnell fans.
Okay.
I really want it to be kind of a cool story about a rock singer that, whatever, and just kind of, and it may turn out that once I finish it, I go, this is really boring.
That's funny. Well, hopefully, I look forward to it. I think it sounds really interesting. Well, I'd like to end each episode with a charity or a nonprofit. Is there something that you like to support or tell people to donate if they have a few extra dollars lying around?
I would love to support MusiCares. I think they are an incredible organization. They have helped so many people that I know, including myself, at the beginning of the pandemic. So yeah. Definitely for anybody that knows about them, they know how great their work is. And if you don't know, go to their website and check them out.
I'll put that in the notes as well. So thank you so much, Tony. This has been really fun. I learned a lot about you.
Thank you, Chuck.
Okay. I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye. So much music Tony has recorded. You can listen to a lot of it on Spotify and decide for yourself what you like. I look forward to those other TNT albums being released someday, and maybe seeing TNT perform in the future as well. Check the notes of this podcast for all the links we discussed. Tony's singing course, his charity, my website with all my stuff is in there as well. And if you enjoyed this episode, tell a friend and make sure to subscribe to the show so that you don't miss any future episodes. If you like this one, you'll really like some of the ones I have lined up. Should be a lot of fun. So thank you for taking the time to listen to the show. I really appreciate it. Have a great day, and remember to shoot for the moon.